Have dinner ready, freshen your makeup, tie a ribbon in your hair, greet him with a warm smile. And don't let the day's troubles show on your face, whatever kind of day you've had. It isn't his concern the moment he walks through that door. This wasn't a suggestion whispered between friends. It was printed guidance, distributed widely across America and Britain in the 1950s, describing exactly what a good wife was expected to do, every single evening, without fail. And it didn't stop at the front door. Many guides also instructed women never to complain about a husband being late, never to greet him with problems the moment he arrived, and to keep the children calm and quiet in those first important minutes home. This wasn't just advice, tucked into a magazine and forgotten. For millions of women, it was the standard by which a good wife was measured, enforced not only by husbands, but by neighbors, by in-laws, and often, quietly, by other women. Today, we're looking at the 10 rules that governed a housewife's daily life in the 1950s. Rule number 1. The homecoming ritual. Across countless etiquette guides and home economics manuals of the era, one expectation appeared again and again, almost word for word. Dinner needed to be ready and on the table by the time a husband walked through the door, timed precisely to his usual arrival. Before that moment, a wife was expected to freshen her appearance, touch up her hair and makeup, and greet him with warmth and enthusiasm, regardless of how her own day had gone. The reasoning offered at the time framed this as a small kindness, a way to make a working man's home feel like a genuine refuge after a long day. But underneath that framing was something heavier. A wife's own exhaustion, her own difficult day managing a household and children, was expected to remain invisible in that moment. The home needed to appear calm, orderly, and welcoming, and it was almost entirely her responsibility to create that appearance. Every single evening, regardless of what it cost her personally. Rule number 2. Financial control. Money in most 1950s households was rarely a wife's to fully control, even when she was the one managing the household budget day to day. Many husbands maintained final authority over family finances, reviewing spending, approving larger purchases, and in some households, handing their wives a fixed weekly allowance for groceries and household needs, regardless of her own opinion on how the money should be spent. If a wife worked outside the home, even her own earnings were often expected to pass through her husband in some fashion, deposited into a joint account he ultimately controlled, or used specifically for a purpose he approved of, such as small luxuries rather than genuine financial independence. This wasn't universal in every household, and plenty of couples managed money as true partners. But it was common enough, and socially expected enough, that a wife who insisted on full financial independence could be seen by her own community as difficult, or worse, as somehow failing to respect her husband's role. Rule number 3. Appearance standards. A wife was expected to maintain a presentable appearance throughout the entire day. Not simply for her husband's return in the evening, but even while alone at home with no one watching at all. Home economics textbooks from the period frequently advised women to dress neatly each morning, style their hair, and avoid being caught in old clothing or curlers. Even during ordinary housework, the justification given was often framed around self-respect or maintaining a sense of order and dignity in the home. But it also reflected a deeper cultural belief that a woman's appearance was, in some sense, a reflection of her household's overall competence and morality. A wife who let her appearance slip, even briefly, risked being quietly judged, not just by her husband, but by any neighbor who happened to glance through a window or knock unexpectedly at the door. Rule number 4. The silence rule. And perhaps one of the most quietly difficult. A wife was generally discouraged from burdening her husband with her own problems, worries, or complaints, particularly in those first moments after he arrived home from work. Guidance from the era often described a wife's role as one of emotional steadiness, a calm presence a husband could return to after a demanding day, rather than someone who might add her own struggles to his. This meant that whatever difficulties a woman faced during her day, whether it was a difficult child, a financial worry, loneliness, or simple exhaustion, she was frequently expected to set those feelings aside, at least until the household settled for the evening, if she was permitted to express them at all. For many women, this created a quiet, private isolation. Even inside a full and busy household, a sense that her own emotional needs came reliably last. Rule number 5. Social judgment. Much of what governed a housewife's behavior wasn't written down anywhere at all. It was enforced informally, through an entire network of social observation woven through neighborhoods, extended family, and church communities. Neighbors noticed whose laundry was hung out latest, whose children looked less tidy than the others, whose curtains stayed drawn past a reasonable hour in the morning. In-laws, too, often played an active role in this quiet system of judgment, offering unsolicited opinions on how a household should be run, how children should be raised, or how a wife should present herself. And notably, much of this policing came not from men, but from other women, who had themselves been raised under the very same expectations, and who, consciously or not, helped enforce them onto the next generation. A single misstep, a messy front step, a short temper witnessed in public, could quietly follow a woman's reputation through an entire community for years. Rule number 6. Employment limits. For a married woman, working outside the home carried both social and, at times, legal complications that a single woman rarely faced. In many communities, it was widely expected that a woman would leave her job entirely once she married, particularly if her husband earned what was considered a sufficient household income on his own. Some employers maintained formal or informal policies against hiring married women altogether, believing, much like the airlines and school districts we've covered before, that a married woman's true priorities belonged at home. Even when a wife did continue working, whether out of financial necessity or personal preference, she often faced quiet disapproval from her own community, an unspoken suggestion that her husband must not be providing adequately, or that she was somehow neglecting her true responsibilities at home in favor of a paycheck. Rule number 7. Credit and banking restrictions, and one that often genuinely shocks people today in the United States. A woman, married or not, generally could not open a credit card in her own name, or secure a loan without a husband's signature and approval. Well into the 1970s, this wasn't simply a cultural norm, it was standard banking practice, and in many cases, effectively backed by lending policy across the entire industry. This meant that even a wife with her own income, her own excellent judgment, and her own financial goals, had no independent legal standing to build credit, purchase a car, or secure a mortgage without her husband's direct involvement and consent. It wasn't until the Equal Credit Opportunity Act passed in 1974 in the United States that this began to formally change, finally granting women the legal right to financial independence that men had simply taken for granted for generations. Rule number 8. Household duty division. The division of labor inside a 1950s household was rigid, and almost entirely unquestioned by the culture at large. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, childcare, and the near-constant management of the household's daily rhythm fell almost exclusively to the wife, regardless of whether she also worked outside the home. A husband's contribution, by contrast, was typically framed around earning income and handling occasional specific tasks like yard work or minor home repairs. This wasn't generally treated as an unfair imbalance at the time. It was simply understood, by both men and women, as the natural and proper order of a well-run household, a structure so deeply embedded in the culture that questioning it openly could itself be seen as a kind of quiet rebellion. Rule number 9. The turning point. By the early 1960s, a quiet discontent that many women had privately felt for years finally found its voice in public. In 1963, writer Betty Friedan published a book called The Feminine Mystique, drawing on interviews with hundreds of housewives who described a persistent, unnamed dissatisfaction with the very role they'd been raised to see as the ultimate fulfillment of a woman's life. Friedan called it the problem that has no name, and the book struck an immediate, powerful chord, selling over 1 million copies within just a few years. It didn't create these feelings, it simply gave millions of women permission to admit, often for the first time, that they'd been feeling them all along. The book is widely credited as a catalyst for what became known as second-wave feminism, a broader movement that, over the following 2 decades, pushed for real legal and cultural change, equal pay protections, the eventual right to open credit in one's own name, expanded employment opportunities, and a slow, hard-won shift in how society viewed a woman's role, both inside the home and beyond it. And rule number 10, the quiet one that outlasted all the others today. A woman can build her own career, open her own bank account, sign her own loans, and structure her household in whatever way genuinely works for her family, without her choices being treated as a referendum on her worth as a wife or a woman. She can share financial decisions as an equal partner, express her own struggles without fear of judgment, and define fulfillment on her own terms, rather than inheriting a single narrow definition handed down by an entire culture. It's worth pausing on that for a moment. The women who ran those spotless 1950s households, who greeted their husbands with a warm smile after quietly setting aside their own hard day, weren't given much say in the shape of their own lives, but their patience, and eventually, their willingness to name what had gone unspoken for so long, helped build the far more open world we recognize today. If any of these rules reminded you of your own mother or grandmother, we'd love to hear her story in the comments below. These are the kinds of memories that deserve to be remembered, and if you enjoyed this look back, you'll want to see this next one just as unforgettable, waiting right here.